Hello everyone, welcome back. So in this video I am going to discuss about what is dynamic testing in software testing. So in my previous video I have discussed about static testing. So if you guys have not seen my static testing video, so I request you please see that static testing video, then come to this dynamic testing video. Because if you guys have knowledge on static testing videos or static testing, then you can easily grab this dynamic testing concept. Okay, so now I'm coming to our main topic, that is dynamic testing. So what do you mean by dynamic testing? So dynamic testing means it's a software testing method which is used to test the dynamic behavior of the software code. Now I am make it very simple way. Now when any requirement come, so first what we will do? First we will do the requirement collection, then we will do the feasibility study, then we will do the design, then we will go for the coding. Then once after the coding is done, then developer will do the white box testing, and once after white box testing is done, finally the software will be given to the test engineer. Now what test engineer will do? They will start their testing by executing their component test cases, integration test cases, system test cases, right? So now always remember, when the developer will given the build to the test engineer, so after giving the build, what test engineer will do, I mean what testing the test engineer will do, that is nothing but called as a dynamic testing. Okay, so the main purpose of dynamic testing is to test software behavior with the dynamic variables, or the variables which are not constant, and finding weak areas in software runtime environment. So the code must be executed in order to test the dynamic behavior. So in dynamic testing, we or the test engineer will test as the software dynamic behavior. Okay, now dynamic, if I give you one very basic or easy example of the dynamic testing, then guys it will be more understandable for you. Let's take an example. Suppose, just I am taking one example. Suppose this is my login page, and in this login page, let's say there is some requirement like this is the username and this is the password, and let's say this is the login button. Okay, so I am taking the name as this is the username and this is the password. Okay, password. Now, so suppose we are testing that login page where we have two fields, mainly two fields, that what is, one is username field and another is password field. Okay, and the username, suppose let's say the username is restricted to alphanumeric values. The username is restricted to alphanumeric values. Make it like username is restricted to alphanumeric values only. Okay, so alpha numeric values. Okay, so alphanumeric values. So username is restricted to alphanumeric value. Suppose when the user enter the username as, let's say I am taking that username, let's say ABC, okay, 123. So this is my username, and okay, and I am first time I am giving that username as the ABC123. So the system accept the same. So whenever we are putting this ABC123 on the username field, the system accept the same value. Whereas when the user enters, let's say second time user enters ABC@123, like that. Okay, then the application throwing one error message or any required message, right? So this result shows that the code is acting dynamically based on the user input. Okay, because thus what is my requirement? My requirement is that username field is only taking the new alphanumeric value, nothing else. So it is totally restricted. So if I put any types of character, like at that is the one type of character, if we put any types of character, then the system cannot accept that value. So whenever a user is putting the username as only for alphanumeric value, let's say ABC123, then it's taking the value as the same. There is no problem. But if user is taking, or if user is putting the value ABC at that 123, as my requirement says that it is totally restricted to alphanumeric. So whenever we are putting any type of character value, then the system is not taking that value, or the username field is not taking the value. So suddenly he is throwing some required message, right? That means this result shows that the code is acting dynamically based on the user input. So that means in dynamic testing is when we are working with the actual system by providing an input and comparing the actual behavior of the application to the expected behavior, right? So in the other words, we can say that it is working with the systems with the intent of finding errors. That is nothing but called as a dynamic testing. Okay. So as of now, for if what is the conclusion for that example? If we give one conclusion for that example, so we can say that dynamic testing is a process of validating software applications as an end user under different environments to build the right software. So, in dynamic testing is a process of validating software applications, because we are validating the applications. What do you mean validating? In runtime, when we are testing anything. So in runtime, we are putting the value as we are putting the username value. I mean, right? So in dynamic testing is a process of validating software applications as an end user under different environments to build the right software. So that is called as a dynamic testing. So now guys, you are very much clear about what is dynamic testing. Okay. So now, so what does dynamic testing do, or what is the main objective, main aim? What is the main aim of dynamic testing? The main aim of the dynamic testing is to ensure that software works properly during and after the deployment of the software. Means when we will go for the dynamic testing, when the software is deployed. So after deployment or during deployment, we have to ensure that that software is working perfectly fine. There is no error, no defect. Okay. So the main purpose of the dynamic testing is to ensure that consistency to the software. So what do you mean by consistency to the software? What do you mean by consistency? So if I am taking one example, let's say I am working on a banking application. Okay. So I am working on this is my banking application. So in this application, let's say there is three fields. Okay. So this is one field, this is one field, and let's say this is one field. Okay. So the first field, name is that. Okay. So the first field name is that account section. Let's say it's a accounts section. Okay. The account section. And the second field is that, let's say money transfer or money transfer. Okay. Money transfer. Okay. And the third field, let's say bill pay. Okay. The third field is that bill pay. So I am just giving you that what do you mean by consistency, because the dynamic testing purpose is that to ensure the consistency of the software. So what is consistency? So I am giving this example. Okay. So I am testing one application, one banking application. So in that banking application, three fields are there. One is account section, second one is money transfer, and third one is bill pay. So let's say this account section field displays some amount, like the amount is displaying like let's say 50,000. Okay. So 50,000. Okay, 50,000. Now on the fund transfer or money transfer, it's showing like let's say price, or we can say price 50,000. Okay, price 50,000. And the bill pay section, the price is showing like let's say uh, 50,000, like this. So that means the total amount, the account section amount is showing 50,000. The money transfer amount section is, the money transfer field is showing 50,000, and the bill pay field is also showing the 50,000. But the way of amount displayed is not the same. The money is same, the price is same, but the way amount is displayed is not the same. That means, hence, making the software is inconsistent, or we can say the non-consistent, right? So this is mean by consistency. The price is same, no problem at all. Here is price is showing 50,000, here is 50,000, here is 50,000. But the way we are putting that value, that is the difference, that is the inconsistent. Okay, so there is no consistency. Okay, so this is known by consistent. So what I am giving this example because the dynamic testing is to ensure that consistency of the software. Okay, so now you guys are very much clear about that, what is the main purpose or what is the main motto of the dynamic testing. Now I am going to the next topic, is that level of dynamic testing. What are the level of dynamic testing? Mainly 4 levels are there. One is unit testing, second one is integration testing, third one is system testings, and fourth one is acceptance testing. So I have already discussed about all these testing types. So if you guys have not seen my video, please see all this video. I am briefly discuss all these things on that video. So please please see that video. Okay, so now, so what are the levels of dynamic testing? 4 levels are there. One is unit testing, second one is integration testing, third one is system testing, and fourth one is acceptance testing. Now, types of dynamic testing. So what are the types of there? So dynamic testing is classified into 2 categories. One is white box testing and another is black box testing. And the black box testing is so what do you mean by white box testing? So in my upcoming videos, I will give brief example, or I will make a separate video on that, white box testing and black box testing, all of these things. But just for a for today's dynamic testing video, so I am giving one simple example or simple definition, so guys you can understand that what is happening here. So what do you mean by white box testing? So in white box testing means, when the in that white box testing method, in which the internal structure or design is known to the tester, and the main aim of the white box testing is to check on how the system is performing based on the code. So whenever, as a test engineer or as a tester, when we are testing that software application internal code structure, okay, so we have to know the internal code structure, internal design, internal implementation. So that testing is called as a white box testing. Okay, and what is black box testing? So in that black box testing, we don't have any knowledge on that code, internal structure. So we are just checking, or we are just verifying the functionality of the software, how that software is behaving. So whenever we are testing that, so that is called as a black box testing. Okay, so that in the type of dynamic testing, 2 types are there mainly. One is white box testing and second one is black box testing. In that black box testing, there are 2 types. One is functional testing, one is non-functional testing. So what do you mean by functional testing? So functional testing means, whenever we are testing any functional criteria of a software, any feature of an application, that is called a functional testing. Okay, so in that functional testing, 4 parts are there. One is unit testing, integration testing, system testing, and acceptance testing. So as I have already told you that levels of dynamic testing, what are the level of dynamic testing? So these are the level of dynamic testing: unit testing, integration testing, system testing, and acceptance testing. And what do you mean by non-functional testing? So in non-functional testing, we are not testing the software applications feature. We are just checking that how the software is performing. If we put any load, how the software will be perform. So in that non-functional testing, we are just checking all of these things like performance testing, load testing, test testing, scalability testing, volume testing, soak testing, or compatibility testing, usability testing, security testing, etc. So these are the types of software, I mean dynamic testing. These are the types of dynamic testing. So in my upcoming video, I will there will be some separate videos like what is white box testing, black box testing, what is functional testing, non-functional testing, and all of these things. So no problem at all. So don't worry about that. I will give you all the separate video with some detailed explanation. Okay. So as of now, just focus on the dynamic testing videos. Okay. Now, so there is some process of dynamic testing. So what are the process or which process we will follow when we will do the dynamic testing? So mainly dynamic testing, there are four, there are seven steps are there. One is requirement analysis, then test planning, then test case design and implementation, test environment setup, test case execution, bug reporting, test closure. So what do you mean by requirement analysis? When some requirement has came from the client side, so in that company, the company will analysis the requirement, that how much time it will take to complete the software, because the client has given some set of requirement and they are given some set of time period. Okay, so our company will analyze all of those things, that it is possible or not with all that requirement given by the client. So in the requirement analysis, we will check all of these things. Okay, and after that we will go for some test planning phase, then we will go for test case design. So whenever our test planning is done, obviously we have to create some test case, some test scenario. So in the test case design phase, we will create some test cases, some test scenarios, then we have to create some test environment setup, then after that we will run that test cases. So that is the test case execution step. Then if we found any types of issue or defect, then obviously we have to i mean uh, revert back to the developer that, hey, there is some issue on your application, on our application, so please fix it. Okay, so we have to track, we have to report some bug. So whenever the developer will again fix that bug, then again we will test that application. Then the last step is that test closure. So whenever is everything is working perfectly fine, there is no issue, then we have to close that test. So this is the dynamic testing technique. So i I can say that this is not the dynamic testing technique, this is a total whole testing technique. Okay, so as dynamic testing is also a testing process or method, so we can say that it is also the dynamic testing process. So mainly in dynamic testing technique or dynamic testing follows, we only follows these three things, these five things. So we are directly follows these things. Okay, from that test case design technique, this is the first, this is the test environment setup, this is the second, then test case execution, then bug reporting, then test closure. So in dynamic testing technique, we are following mainly these five, but yes, you can follow all of these seven, so no problem at all. Okay, so these are the dynamic testing process. Okay, so now the next topic is that what are the advantage of dynamic testing. Okay, so there are a lot of advantages are there, and there are a lot of disadvantages also there. So first I am giving you some some points of advantages of dynamic testing. So it I mean it di- so what is the advantage? It discloses very difficult and complex defects, obviously, because in the runtime we are testing that dynamic testing. Okay, then second point is that it detects the defects that can't be detected by static testing. So first we will do the static testing, then we will go for the dynamic testing. Okay, so if any functionality we missed, or any feature testing we missed in the static testing, then in dynamic testing we can find that, issues or defect. So that's why it's a very good advantage for the dynamic testing is that it detects the defects that can't be detected by the static testing. Okay, then it increases the quality of the software product. Okay, so every testing, so not only the dynamic testing, every testing increases the quality of software product. Okay, now dynamic testing detects the security threats and ensure the better secure applications, because in dynamic testing we are following there are some types of dynamic testing. So in that types there is something on non-functional testing is there. So in the non-functional testing, security testing part is also there. So I am writing it down. Security testing. Okay, security testing. So as we are following that security testing on the dynamic testing types, so we can say that dynamic testing detects the security threats and ensure the better secure applications. Then it can be used to test the functionality of the software at the early stage of development, or it is easy to implement and doesn't require any special tools or expertise. There is no any special tools are required. Okay, it can be used to test the software with different input values, because I have already told you guys that on the end user can check the dynamic testing, and they can also put some different input values, different data sets. Okay, so because if we do that type of testing, then we can say that yes, our software is much more better quality. So no doubt. Also, it can be used to test the software with different user profiles, or it can be used some function. It can be used to test the functionality of the code, and it can be used to test the performance of the code, security of the code, because all these are types of that dynamic testing. So we have to test every type of testing: functional testing, white box testing, non-functional testing, under non-functional performance testing, test testing, load testing, security testing. Okay, every testing we have to follow that. So this is the advantage things of that dynamic testing. Okay, now coming to the next point is that disadvantage of the dynamic testing. So what are the disadvantage? So as in dynamic testing, we are testing all of these types. So it will take more time. So we can say that dynamic testing is a time consuming process, because the whole code will be executed on the dynamic testing process. Okay. And also it increases the budget of the software, because the dynamic testing is costly, obviously. So that's why it increases the budget, and the dynamic testing may require more resources than static testing, because in the static testing one tester can test that, no problem at all. But in dynamic testing, as we have to maintain all of these testing, performance testing, black box testing, white box testing, then we have to test the performance testing, load testing. So as a one single tester, it is not possible. Maximum time it is not possible. I'm not saying every time, but maximum time it is not possible to maintain all of these things by one single tester. So that's why more resources should be required on the dynamic testing. Okay, then dynamic testing may be less effective than static testing in some cases. Obviously, because we are testing lots of testing types. So maybe the dynamic testing will be less effective. And as we are testing all of these types, so sometimes it will be difficult to cover all of the test scenarios, and also it is difficult to find out the root cause of the defects, right? So these are the disadvantage of dynamic testing. So now guys, you are very much clear about the dynamic testing. Okay, so also I can give you one example of the dynamic testing, that when we follow the dynamic testing process. Okay, let's say, so whenever any software come, then what will be the first step? First we'll do the requirement analysis. Okay, or requirement. First we have to do the requirement collection. Then what we will do? Then we will do the feasibility study. then we have to do the feasibility study. Then what we will do? Then the design. Then then we can say that design, then coding. Then once the coding is done, then we have to do the testing. So this is the SDLC life cycle. So if you guys remember that what is the SDLC life cycle, so these are the SDLC life cycle. So first requirement collection, then feasibility study, then design, then coding, the testing. So in that testing step, what testing we will do? We will do the component testing, okay, or we'll do the integration testing, we'll do the system testing, or we'll do the acceptance testing, or we'll do the performance testing. So lots of testing we'll do, etc. So here, I mean, in that testing phase, the dynamic testing will happen. Dynamic testing will in this phase. Okay. So now you are very much clear about when we will go for the, or when we will use that dynamic testing. So in that SDLC life cycle phases, on the testing phase, where we will do the component testing, integration testing, system testing, acceptance testing, performance testing, load testing. So in that phase we'll use that dynamic testing. Okay. So now you guys are very much clear about that what is dynamic testing, and also I can say that. So I have already told you guys that if you guys remember that static testing, static testing, I have mentioned that static testing is a verification activity. Okay, but dynamic testing will be done as a part of your validation activity. So where we have to validate that, because in runtime we are executing our test cases by using lots of testing type, functional testing, non-functional testing. So dynamic testing is a part of your validation activity. So we have to remember that thing. And obviously in dynamic testing, we find that defect and we have to fix that defect, as I've already mentioned. So that's all about dynamic testing. So I think now you are very much clear about that what is dynamic testing, when we will use the dynamic testing, and all of the process of dynamic testing. So if you guys have any doubt, please comment me, and if you guys like my video, one thumbs up, and if you can share my videos to your friends so they can see my videos for their testing purposes, and obviously subscribe to my channel EduPaat and clicking on the bell icon, so guys you can get uh, update first on my videos. So see you in the next videos with some interesting topic of software testing. Thank you.